Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Mindset with me, your host, Michelle Walter. Today, I am very excited because I have a special guest speaker for you guys, for you listeners today. She is an entrepreneur, she is a mother, and she is the CEO of J&J Journals. So I'd like for everybody to welcome Miss Shannon Roan.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for this opportunity to speak with you and your guest today.
You are so welcome. Welcome to Let's Talk Mindset. And I guess we will start by sharing a little bit about your personal journey. What brought you into the world of journaling and healing after loss?
Yes, so my personal story started, it was March 26th of 2019, where I experienced an ectopic pregnancy and it ended in emergency surgery. This was my husband and I, this was our first time trying for a baby, and it ended in emergency surgery and the loss of my left fallopian tube. It was very traumatic for me during that time, just waking up that morning and ending my day in an emergency room, uh, not leaving with, still being pregnant, leaving with a loss of a fallopian tube. And it felt like my hopes and dreams were completely shattered of starting my family. So during that time, I didn't really know how to process those emotions. So I started to journal. There were times where I just could not speak. I couldn't talk about it. If I spoke about it, I would literally just burst into tears. So there were times where I was just silent. I didn't have anyone that I knew who had been through a similar situation. So I was truly suffering in silence. My husband was, a great support for me, but I didn't have anyone else that I felt like I could talk to. So
Right.
journaling, putting those emotions on paper was truly an outlet for me. And 4 months after that, I lost my aunt to pancreatic cancer. And then 6 months after that, I had a miscarriage. So it was that cumulative grief, the back to back losses. So journaling was truly an outlet for me that helped me process that.
Okay. Okay. I'm a firm believer in journaling, and I've been doing it every day for years, and I do it along with meditation every morning. So believe me, I totally get that. Um,
Mhm.
Many of us find purpose through our pain, just like yourself and myself. Was there a specific moment or experience? I know the experience is the miscarriage, but a specific moment that sparked the idea of the J&J journals.
Yes. So the idea, really, it happened last year. It was July 24th of 2024, where I had this vision. I would wake up at 3:33 for months, like maybe 2 or 3 months. I was
Oh,
waking up at 3:30, 3:33. And just one morning, I remember just saying to God, whatever it is, Lord, I'm listening. And He put that vision on my heart, and the word was journals. And that next morning when I woke up, I went to that journal that I wrote back in 2019 and 2020. And I it was so full of emotion. And in that moment is when J&J Journals was born.
okay. That's awesome. I love that story. Okay, so journaling is such a powerful tool for healing. We both know that. In your experience, why do you think journaling is so effective for people who are grieving a loss, any kind of loss?
Um, for me, journaling is effective because it's a safe space, right? There's no judgment. You're getting those thoughts and emotions onto paper. Um, like I said, just when you can't speak it, you can write it, and it's your safe space, and there's no judgment. So for me, it was looking back at it, a source of strength. So just looking back at the things that I wrote then, and just seeing how much I've grown from that point into now. But for me, it was truly just a safe space where I could just let it all out on paper without the judgment.
That's right. I like that. Okay, so what would you say to someone who feels that they're not a writer or they struggle to put their emotions into words?
Mhm.
What would you say to that person?
Healing does not require you to be perfect. It requires you to be honest, and there are no right or wrong ways to journal, right?
Right.
Uh, some days it might just be a few words. I got out of bed and that was enough, right? But some days you may pour your heart out onto those pages. But there's no right or wrong way to journal. Just starting, that's the right step. It's just to start, right?
Mhm.
It looks different for everyone, um, but it's being honest with yourself and with your emotions
Right.
and putting that onto paper.
Right. Because it does work different for everyone.
Yes,
Right? And you do have those days when you can only write a sentence, and there's days when you'll write pages. Just depends
absolutely.
on the emotions that you're going through. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Can you share a journaling prompt or practice that helped you or one of your clients move through heavy grief?
Yeah, so for me, it's writing a letter to your loved one, anything that you wish you could say to them. So, a quick story when my grandmother passed, it was in 2023, and I wasn't able to attend her funeral. And I was very, very close to my grandmother. I was in my third trimester of pregnancy with my now 2-year-old daughter. And it wasn't safe for me to travel that distance. So I wrote a letter and I got out everything that I wanted to ever say to her, all of the memories um, over my childhood that I remembered with my grandma, all of those great moments. So writing a letter, just getting out what you would want to say to that person, I think has been helpful for myself and also for those that I've been coaching along the way. So that has been helpful for me. It's just writing a letter, also creating, um, maybe new traditions or ways to honor your loved one. Maybe it's a new tradition or a new act of kindness. So how would you like to honor your loved one going forward? So those are some of the things that has been helpful for myself as well as for those that I've been coaching.
Okay. Great. Okay. So on this podcast, we talk a lot about mindset because I believe that that's where everything starts. It starts with your
Mhm.
mindset.
Yes.
So how has journaling helped you to reframe your mindset around grief and emotional pain?
Well, for me, it like I said, it gave me that safe space. It didn't Journaling didn't help me erase the grief. It helped me to see that healing was helping me to get through day by day.
Right.
So it wasn't, it was about learning to live with that person no longer being here, but also creating meaning and hope
Right.
for the future. So for me, it was, not forgetting that person, but or thing, right? Because people grieve other
Yep.
than losing loved ones, right?
Yep.
That person or thing. It was just creating that space for you to create meaning and finding hope and joy in the middle of it.
Right. And what mindset shifts, excuse me, do you think are most essential for someone feeling stuck in their healing journey?
For me, it was self care, and that was a thing that helped me a lot. Was finding things at that point that made me help or made me happy. Um, that may look different for different people, right? But my for me, the mindset shift was what makes me happy going forward and
Right.
incorporating those things into my daily life and making it intentional. Being intentional about going for a walk or getting out of the bed and putting clothes on in those times that you don't
Mhm.
feel like moving, right? Going to get a
Yep.
hot cup of coffee and not allowing it to get cold. Um,
Yep.
so those were the things, the mindset shift is being intentional about caring for myself during those moments where I did not want to get up.
Yeah. And that's funny you say that because intentional, that's I just did a podcast earlier this morning and I was talking about being intentional and gentle movement because your body is grieving along with your brain and your emotions. And the
Mhm.
only way for grief to move through your body is through the gentle movement. So
Absolutely.
going for the walk, going for the tea, going, up and down the stairs, whatever, that is definitely helping to heal and move the grief through the body. So I love that you
Absolutely.
touched on that. That's funny. I said that this morning. Okay, so I want to talk about the 5 A's of healing for a minute. you
Hmm.
developed something called the 5 A's of healing. I love the title, by the way.
Hmm.
So can you talk us through, me and the listeners, what they are and how they support someone through grief and emotional recovery?
Yeah, so the 5 A's of healing is my framework that it really I went through during my own healing journey and how it's tied to each of my journals. So I have a total of 6 journals that back then I felt like I would have needed as I was going through my own journey. So I created those to reflect my journey. So the first is acknowledge. So recognizing your pain and your emotions and where you are on your grief journey. And I have 2 grief journals. Joy Comes in the Morning and Held in My Heart. That's my pregnancy loss journal. So just acknowledging where you are in your grief, and then accept, embracing that loss. So for me, finding gratitude, even in the moments where
Really hard to find it.
yeah, really hard to find it, but finding small things to be grateful for. And then also my prayer journal. There were times where it was very hard to, keep up with that, right? Because you're going through that stage of anger and God, why did this happen to me? So being able to accept and embrace that loss. And then adjust. So just redefining what life looks like and rebuilding a sense of self. And that's where my self care journal comes into place. And then advance, just turning your pain uh, into purpose. So that's where J&J journals have come from, where I'm turning my pain into purpose. I am a peer companion through a local hospital for those bereaved moms. Um, and I also offer pregnancy loss care packages as well. So just turning my pain into purpose and being able to provide those, just that glimmer of hope that I felt like I didn't have then is what I'm offering to someone else.
Okay. So I think you kind of answered this question, but I'm going to touch on it anyway, specifically again for the listeners. I know that your journals are beautifully intentional. What makes J and J journals different from just having a blank notebook to journal in?
Well, they're not just plain journals. They are guided with prompts, and they are really living reflections of a real healing journey. So every page is created with or from my personal experience.
Right.
So it's, by me who knows the weight of grief and the miracle of hope at first hand. So for me, I've been through that process, through that journey. So my journals are built to help someone as they go through their healing journey because I've once walked in their shoes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what kind of transformations or breakthroughs have you seen from people who have committed to journaling regularly? I know I've seen my own personal experience, but what have you seen?
One, it allows you to just release, right? It helps you with stress and managing that. And that looks, like I said, it looks different for everyone, but specifically some feedback from someone that I've been working with is it has been helpful. She was suffering in silence. Even though we were working together, there were things that she felt like she couldn't speak with
Mhm.
to her own husband. But the journal allowed her to just get it off of her chest and to get it out. And
Right.
she felt so much better just getting it out. And I think a lot of times, a lot of us just want to get it out because it's bottled up in us and we don't know how to say it. So writing it makes it easier to just clear yourself from whatever it is you're feeling in that moment.
Right. And from my own experience, I'll just add that naming your emotions, it makes it easier to process them.
Yes,
So naming it, putting it down on paper makes that processing much easier.
absolutely.
Right. All right. So, what's something you wish more people understood about grief and the healing process?
Uh, Grief does not have a timeline or an expiration date. Healing is not about getting over it because we'll never get over it, right? It's learning just to kind of carry that loss during over time.
Right.
It's about honoring and finding, continuing that love for your loved one or that thing that you've lost.
Hmm.
But it's not about getting over it. It's not about, and for me, my situation, um, March 26th of 2019, and I truly feel that the body feels that grief. So even though it
Absolutely.
was 6 years ago, in March, or for me this year, I was overcome with sadness. And at the time, I didn't recognize, like, where is this coming from? I was snappy, I was sad, and I just wanted to just lay in bed.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it was March and it was coming up on that date. And your body has this way of feeling that.
Yep.
So grief
Muscle
does
memory,
not,
emotional memory.
yes, emotional
Yes.
memory. So grief does not have a timeline.
Right. You're absolutely right on that one. And it is not linear. I'll add that. It's
Yes,
waves,
absolutely.
it's hills and valleys. It doesn't go in one straight, nice packaged order at all.
Mhm, mhm.
So, if you could offer one piece of advice to someone listening who is in deep grief right now and just doesn't know where to begin, what would you say to that person?
I would say allow yourself to feel those emotions. Allow yourself to feel those emotions. Healing doesn't have to start with a big plan. Start where you are today. One small one small step, right? If it's just getting out of bed, that's enough. Right? Tomorrow may look different. One small act of care for yourself. I'm really big on self-care. So finding things that would make you happy. Um, but one small step. It doesn't have to be a big plan because that could look different for everyone. It's a day by day thing. And if it's just getting out of bed and that was enough for you today, that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So, where can listeners connect with you and how can they learn more about your journals or your healing community?
Yes. So I am on Instagram at J&J_journals. And my website is jandjjournals.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, that is the end of this episode of Let's Talk Mindset with me, your host, Michelle Walter. And I just want to thank you, Shannon, very much for coming on today and sharing your story with my listeners. It was beautiful. And what you're doing with your journals is amazing. I think that turning your purpose into pain, or sorry, turning your pain into purpose is an amazing thing that you're doing, right? So, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And again, where can people reach you on Instagram?
At JANDJ_journals.
Perfect. Just to make sure that everybody got that. All right. Thank you very much, Shannon, for joining. And that's our episode.
Thank you.